So today, Becky is going to lead us on the, give us a hands-on experience about Hyperdocs. All right, Becky, take it away.
All right, you guys. Okay, so I'm Becky Smith. I am an instructor in the Occupational Therapy Assistant Program over at MCC, of course. I've been there for probably about 6 years, part-time as an adjunct, and then full-time the last about 4 years. So I wanted to just kind of give you guys a quick little background about my journey into Hyperdocs and why I use them so much. And then what I would like to do is kind of talk really briefly about them. I know I talked at one of the faculty meetings before, but I see a lot of people here that may not have been at that. So we can go a little bit more into that if you guys need that. And then my goal is to have you guys get that opportunity to kind of mess around with one, just to kind of get your feet wet with it too, and see if it's something that you can use for your classroom. So my journey to Hyperdocs started in the spring. I am a graduate student, also working on my master's and my doctorate at the same time. So it's okay. But I took a class on instructional design and delivery in the spring, and it was really focused a lot on a lot of ed tech practices. We did things like ThingLink and Edpuzzle and quizzes and Flipgrid, and we did Hyperdoc actually 2 or 3 times in that course. And then when the pandemic hit, a couple weeks later, after we had just done the Hyperdoc stuff, I was teaching 3 different courses. One was a 3-hour lecture. And then I had one that was a 6-hour once a week lecture and lab. And then my other class is a 7-hour once a week lecture and lab combo as well. So I was really struggling with how I was going to get that information to my students and still have them get somewhat of a, I don't want to say hands-on because physically they weren't hands-on, but an application aspect to it for that lab piece of it. And to top that off, my internet at home is typically really awful, especially in the spring. We got things updated, but and there was really nowhere for me to go for good internet access. I live in Marengo, so the school doesn't offer public Wi-Fi. The library shuts. When the library shut, they don't offer public Wi-Fi. So I was really struggling with how I was going to do this. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this Hyperdoc thing. And so what we ended up doing for the spring semester is that I would start with my students in a synchronous mode first for about the first hour, hour and a half, and then they would transition into an asynchronous mode. And especially with my students that had a 6-hour class with me or a 7-hour, there was no way I could keep them online for 6-7 hours while their whole worlds had been turned upside down too with having children home. So we tried it for the first couple of weeks. I told my students, I said, let's just try this, and then I want feedback. And so I sent out an anonymous Google Forms after a couple of weeks, and I said, okay, tell me what's working, what's not. And surprisingly, the students were very positive about it. And I think a lot of it was because it was a one-stop shop for everything they needed. Because in class, you hand out this, and you put up the new video, and you get, and it's hard to do that in a manner, especially if it's a 6-hour kind of class. So they really liked that. They liked the flexibility of it. They liked that it saved their work if they had to go run and take care of a kid, that they could jump in and out of it in that asynchronous mode. So fast forward a couple months later and we enter the fall semester. One of my classes is a lecture-based class. So I decided to do the same kind of format with them. And it's the same students, just a new semester. And then my other class is online or on campus with them. So we tried it again this semester. And I was a little nervous about, like, are they going to kind of be disenfranchised with it by now? And, you know, morale with it. But at midterms, again, with the anonymous feedback, still was really positive. So I really found it kind of as a great way to teach that class. We've used it in a, I want to say kind of a stripped down version for some homework assignments, some group work that is virtual where they're not on campus together to do the group work. And then we're also using it next week in an interprofessional collaboration kind of set up with the PTA students, where everybody's off campus, and so they're going to work together in teams. So I want to kind of give you guys some examples of how I use it. and then give you guys the opportunity to start trying to put it to use. So I tend to be pretty casual and informal. So if you guys have questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat box. And if somebody could just keep an eye on that and just jump in, because I tend to forget to look at the chat box. That'd be awesome. Thank you, Holly. I see you nodding your head. So, all right. So I'm going to share a little bit with you here. Here. Okay. And I'm going to be jumping around to a couple different screens. So also if I'm talking about something that's not up there, please let me know and jump in. So let me just kind of go to what a Hyperdoc truly is. Okay. So the essence of a Hyperdoc, there's a whole website on it. You guys, there's a book on it. But basically it's a carefully crafted digital lesson plan. It's not something we just throw together and say, oh, here's some cool activities for you to do. It still has to have that pedagogical base to it. How do you want your students to learn? Are you one of those instructors that has them explore something first and then make inferences from it? Or do you give them that information, then they have to apply it? So you really have to be kind of intentional about how you want it put together. It needs to be visually engaging and packaged. It's a visual, like I said, it's a one-stop shop, which my students really liked. Now, the visually engaging part, I'm going to be honest with you, mine are probably not that visually engaging. But when they started with Hyperdocs, it was mainly for the K through 12 population, which really, to keep their attention, you want to make it very visually engaging. I don't think my students really want lots of additional pictures and colors and things like that on there. So mine are pretty plain, but it's all right there. It is also a way that how students can use the technology to really collaborate, which I'll show you that collaboration piece that we're going to be doing, to think critically through the application and really connect some of those themes. Hyperdocs are not just a Google Doc with links. It's not a pre-made curriculum program. I'm going to show you guys a whole bunch of templates, and some of those templates are, well, most of those templates have been created by other teachers. And it's very tempting, I think, to go in and say, oh, I'm teaching about Hamlet this week. Let me go find a Hyperdoc and just plug that in. We still need to doctor it up, do our little hacks to it to really make it our curriculum and what we want to teach. And it's not a new app or web tool. It's been around for a long time. It's just a different way to use that app. It can be used with all different types of courses and activities. Like I was just giving examples of my online classes. It can be used in a face-to-face manner, especially if you have students that bring their laptops with them, or we have iPads in my classroom, those kinds of things. You can absolutely do it that way. Or if you have a computer room where you're trying to keep them distanced apart, but yet collaborating together. Flipped classrooms where they have to do something with the Hyperdoc first and then come to class and be prepared with that information. Lab packets, homework assignments, group work, really, you could do it with a whole bunch of things. The sky's the limit, so be creative. So I'm going to show you guys a couple examples to help kind of explain it a little bit more. And I picked 3 of them because I wanted to show you like a lecture class that is online, a lab class, and then kind of how we're using it as the interprofessional collaboration. So let me reshare this with you. Okay. So this is a class that I've been teaching this semester. It's on different types of medical conditions that OT assistants might or are most likely to work with. So one week we had a chapter on degenerative disorders, and this is like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, ALS, those kinds of things. So what I do typically with mine is, like I said, they're pretty basic. The lesson description there, you can put in your learning objectives if you wanted to. They're required readings. And then what I did with this one specifically, because there's really not a lab component to it, I just want to break it up for them. So they're taking in the information in small pieces and not just watching one big video, and give them a way to kind of bring their information together. So in here, I've embedded the YouTube video. So if they click on that, they go right to YouTube where I've recorded the lecture for this topic was on ALS. So they can click right on that. It takes them right to the YouTube video. Boom, boom. And then, whoop, let's turn that off. You don't need to hear me do that. And then what I did was gave them some charts for them to fill in some information. So for this class, it's very much about like what causes this disease, what are the signs and symptoms, what is medical management, and then I put in an area for them to be creative. If you want to put a mnemonic in there, are there specific words that stuck out to you? Put something in there that's going to help you remember what ALS is. So then I broke it down into multiple sclerosis. So it's like little bits and pieces for those students instead of doing one big thing. Huntington's, Parkinson's. You're able to put in additional videos too. So these were some YouTube videos I found that really talked about freezing of gait when we were talking about that in the lecture. So they can supplement with that as well. And then at the very end, I wanted them to have to put it all together. So for this week, and I mix these up every week, but this week I had them do like a concept map or a Venn diagram. And a lot of them just drew it out on a piece of paper, snapped a picture of it, and put it into their Hyperdoc. So that was kind of the one way I had them do that. And then at the end of all of my Hyperdocs, I have this box that says muddiest points. And these are topics or questions that they want to address at the next synchronous section. And the nice part about this is that students, they'll write in like, hey, can you review the different subtypes of multiple sclerosis? I'm getting confused on this one and this one. But that gives me information as I'm looking at them, as I'm preparing for the next week. These are the areas that they may not have, grasped as well or mastered as well or need some review. So I write those all down, and that's how we start the next session. The students know that whatever questions or things that they have here, I don't say, oh, Pete, you asked me about this. I don't pull you out. So it gives them a safe place also to ask those questions and not on a Zoom meeting where they're highlighted and there they are. So that's just one example. I'm going to pull up the example now here for the lab class. This is an 8-hour class or 7-hour class, I take it back. And it was on physical agent modalities. So this one I needed some more application stuff, where the other one I just wanted to get the information. This one I want more application. So for this one here, I started out with like, I want you to read through the papers and the laws for the state of Illinois, and then find another state and read their regulations about the use of physical agent modalities, which are like ultrasound, hot packs, cold packs, TENS units, those kinds of things. Because usually this is a really good discussion in class because my students get really upset because in Illinois, you have to be specially certified in that for OT practitioners. So it really kind of gets the whole like discussion started. And then I had them go into Flipgrid where they had to then just do a 1-minute video of your reactions, your initial reactions. And usually it's, I can't believe that, but I understand it. But it starts that conversation going. And then I broke it up into the different concepts again, thermal. So I give them this 5-minute video, and then here's some application. How are you going to do it? My students know that all the white areas need to be filled in. That's what they're responsible for. So anything in gray is what I wrote in. Anything in white is what they need to put in. So I'm just going to kind of go through this, just show you some different questions and stuff and how I set this one up. It's a long one, but it's a long class, you guys. And then at the end, I had more of case studies for them. So they have to put all that information together, answer these questions based on the case study. So there's still that application piece of it. And again, at the bottom is the muddiest point. Okay.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Do those boxes expand as you type in them?
Yep. So as long as they have access to it, they can adapt it however they want.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet. And I'll show you guys also how like the student would get their copy and stuff, because I have a couple little bits of advice about like, don't make them each a copy of it. Don't waste your time on that. There's some easy ways to do that. The other one I want to show you guys is real quick is this is a simple, like if you just want to make a worksheet, just try it this way. This is what we're doing next week with the PTA students. It's a team-based case study video that they watch through our library. And then what we're going to have them do is each of their group names are going to be in a different color. and then they go through and they answer these questions as teams. Okay, so then each of them has to put in their different color. I know that they will keep a history up here, but if all your students aren't, I've had it a lot of times where it says anonymous, 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 and it doesn't have the student's name. So if they're not connected to you through Google or something like that, it doesn't show up. So I find it's easier if I do it through color. And actually it kind of holds the students a little bit more accountable to like, oh, I didn't put anything in this box. I probably should comment or build upon what the students have already said in that box. So that's just another example of that. I do want to show you though, how the students would get their own copy of this. So right now I can edit it because I'm the author of it. But if I went to share this with the students, I would use my share button and I would just make sure you guys, I'm sorry, I keep moving you guys around my little boxes of you guys. Let's do this. Okay. You're going to go down here and right now anybody can edit this link. I just want it to be anybody can view the link. Okay. So if they're only a viewer, I copy the link and I send it to the students. All right, I have to change this back because we're using this and we set it up totally different. But then when the students open that link, they're going to have this, but they cannot type in it. This is the master copy. So they're going to go to File and they're going to say Make a Copy. And then once they make their copy, it goes to their Google accounts, email accounts. Then they can start typing in it, however they want to type. Okay. Then when they go to submit it, there's a couple things. You're going to ask them to download it as a PDF document because then it saves it as it is. They can no longer, and that's, well, I should say that's the file that they're going to turn in. And so the PDF pops up, they submit it just like they would with any assignment. Now, the reason for this, and I know it sounds kind of weird and crazy, but if they submit it as a PDF, they cannot go back and change the document. So say you have them submit it on Friday, but you don't get to grading it on Tuesday. If you just have them give you the Google link, it's still an active link, it's still an active document, and they can go in and change things up at that point. The other piece of that, why I would really recommend them submitting as a PDF, is that it stays in Canvas for you. So say 4 months from now, that student is disputing a grade or says, hey, I did put that on my Google document. You can pull it up and it's saved as that PDF. And if they get rid of that link or they get rid of that in their Google Drive, you still have that hard copy of it. So I would really recommend doing that when they submit it. The other thing I would say is make a how-to video for the students to walk them through it. I find my students are much more visual, especially when it comes to this technology stuff where they can say, oh, that's what I click on. That's what, that's what we need to do. So I would recommend that as well. I did that for the first week. And then for the second week, when they were still getting used to it, I linked that video back in. If you need a refresher, here's how to do it. So those were just some tips that I would recommend for that. And then I would say when you create a Hyperdoc, I kind of go through these different steps. I want to think about what are my objectives for my students? What do I really, really want them to know and to grasp and to apply with this lesson? So I kind of set those up first. And then I start thinking about what the Hyperdoc people call a learning cycle or your lesson design. So what that means is that that with that learning cycle, do you want to make it like I want them to explore, analyze, apply, and then reflect? How do you want that design or flow to go? The third thing, how do you want it packaged? Do you want to do Flipgrid in there? Do you want to link it to an Ed puzzle, or do you just want it specifically in that Hyperdoc? How do you want that to be? Then you build it, and then you do your finishing touches. So you can add your colors and all that other stuff. Okay. I see a couple things here in the chat. Is it connected to the grade book? If you have them submit it through Canvas, it can go to your grade book. So for example, let me come back out here. I'm gonna bring up, so you can make it as an assignment, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Where did I put, hang on guys here, just a second here. Let me just pull up the correct thing. I thought I had this open. Courses, so make sure I'm not giving everybody the course. Okay, let me come back and share again with you guys. All right, so this is just a test class of mine, and I have a Hyperdoc here. So if I had, of course it was on the other page. Nope, hang on. That says a teacher. Let me put it on student mode. Student view. So if I want to submit something as a student, I'm going to say submit assignment, and you can put on your, you can put your rubric in there and all of that, set it up like a regular assignment. I'm going to choose my file because I was practicing earlier. We'll take this one here, and I'm going to submit my assignment. And then I'm just going to show you also from the teacher side. I didn't know you got confetti. That's pretty exciting, you guys. So if I want to leave student view, and I'm going to go to speed grader now, this is what you're going to get as an instructor. So what's nice about this is what I typically do is I'll just write in my feedback, you know, please clarify. I can write all my feedback in there. I can attach a rubric over here. And then if I just type and put all their feedback in here, a lot of times I save myself a little bit of time and I'll say feedback is included in your document, and they can go right there for that. Does that answer that question? Ritu? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. And then what were the instructions when I shared the document with my students? Mary, what I did for that is I made just a short YouTube video, and I actually took that first Hyperdoc with them. And I said, okay, if I was, this is what you need to do. And it was piece by piece to that. So it was very much just a video that they kind of followed through to get their copy of it and how to submit it. This is the confetti. We're all excited about the confetti, right? I think the students get the confetti. We should get confetti too as instructors, I think. You know, you make a new assignment, you publish it, we should get confetti too, but I think it's just students. So automatic. All right. So exactly. You're grading. I agree. Okay.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So do you do Hyperdocs for every week, or like do you mix it up? Or I mean, I'm just kind of curious to see how that blends into your course shell.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I do is I do a Canvas page for each week, for each week's module, and then in that, then I had the link for their Hyperdoc. So I had like their readings, I have the course objectives, and then I say, and now here's your Hyperdoc, and they click on that Hyperdoc and it takes them right to the Google Doc.
Okay, so pretty much, so what I understand is you do have your learning objectives and then reading resources, and then you have your, like all the activities that like submissions are basically in the Hyperdocs.
Yes. Yep.
And they could be all mix of like, you know, you watch this and work on this, and you know, so all the submissions are through Hyperdocs.
They are. Yep. So it's just, you set up your assignments in Canvas. I'll have Hyperdoc. I do like 2.1, 3.1, and they go right to that and they submit their PDF right into that when they're done with it.
Right. I'm just a little confused with the gradebook though. I mean, like how we set it up in Canvas, like, you know, maybe you have multiple buckets of, you know, grading criteria for different activities. So how does that split up into the gradebook? Does it split up differently? Like if you have quizzes, would that align to the quizzes? If you have, like, you know, you understand if I'm saying,
Yeah.
So how does that happen in the gradebook?
I have them set up under assignments. So that's how I use mine, is that there are weekly assignments that they do. So you can classify each of those as an assignment and that they go into the assignment.
Right, but So my question
Yeah.
probably would be, and maybe I didn't make that clear, if I am using different types of assessments in the same Hyperdoc, for instance, if I'm using, let's say, quizzes, and then I'm using, okay, maybe a presentation or create a brochure kind of a thing, and then you have short answer, essay type questions, then how, like I'm trying to use the gradebook to automatically grade some of the activities, for example, quizzes, but there are others that I'll be grading personally. So how do you differentiate that?
I have not done where I have like quizzes and like that in the same Hyperdoc.
Okay.
I just do them all as that. I'm not sure. I don't know. Pete, Holly, do you guys have any ideas on what she's?
I don't think there's any way you could connect it to the grade book. There's no method or no connection
Yeah.
to have it automatically grade,
Yeah, I think you just have to go in and grade it like a regular assignment.
right?
Yeah.
And then all the activities. So, I mean, the other question probably was that you have varied activities in the same Hyperdocs, but then they'll all go, I mean, obviously you'll grade it manually, but then it'll all go under one bucket,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep. The way I have them set up, yeah, that's how I have it set up. So the rubric will say, the rubrics that I'm using right now is more of application. Like, did you use, support your answers with information from the textbook or that kind of thing too. So that's kind of where I have them. And then I'll put in there, yeah, if they didn't finish it, then they get points off and those kind of things. So I have the rubrics, but they're pretty general, but they all go in the same bucket for me.
Okay.
So yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, I wasn't sure where you were. I want to make sure I get your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's helpful. I'm just kind of probably thinking ahead. I'll probably have more questions towards the end, I think.
Absolutely.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Those text boxes, are those just a table that you add to the document?
Yes. What I do with those, let's see here. I insert a table and I do one box and then I just highlight it and I fill it white. I gotta move you. There we go. Okay. Just fill it in white, just like that.
Oh,
so
nice.
pretty easy. And I think, the first couple that I made they took a lot of time, just because I was getting used to Google Docs and what I can and can't do and how to link it and where was that piece again, but now that I kind of have it down, it's pretty quick and easy now. So
do you find like, with all the students, I mean, does technology come as a barrier? Because I mean, if I'm saying, okay, you have all your assignments on Hyperdocs and I'm like the, half of the class size, well, I don't know. And does that create a barrier?
First, I would say the first week they were a little nervous about it. And I did have a couple Zooms with some students that were just wanting to learn how to do it. But I think the video really helped a lot of them, just because it was pretty quick that way. My students are the non-traditional students. I would say my average age in my cohort's probably about early 30s. So there was a little bit of a barrier there. But I also find my kids that are both in high school, they're using Hyperdocs all the time right now with the e-learning. So I'm hoping that they'll be more familiar with it as they come up to the college level.
Sure.
So, all right. So let me just kind of share a little bit more with you guys and then let's get into it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys some links to templates. I'll post those in the chat in just a little bit. But what these are going to do is they are going to bring you to some different templates. So this is just one of those links. Please remember that these were originally designed for K through 12, but I really feel that they are absolutely applicable for the college student. And my neighbor is doing something out there, so let me close my window. But you can easily go in here into science. I'm just going to grab something off of here, but you go into this drive, there's tons and tons of templates. So what I would say is really look for something that looks like something you can really use and use for your classroom. So say I wanted to use this electricity one, and you guys are going to do exactly what your students do when they get a Hyperdoc from you. Come on, computer, don't fail me now. But if you look at this, you can't edit it. I can't go in here and write at all because it's only read only. So you're going to do exactly what you're going to ask your students to do. You're going to go right to File, make a copy. You can put it into whichever folder you want. I'm just going to get it out of there. Just put it in my drive. And now I can change the title. I can say, you know, I'm not talking about electricity. I want to make a bulleted list, you know, about various lines and tubes in the ICU or something like that. So I can absolutely go in here, change it up, however, which way I want to. So that's the beauty of some of the templates that you can use. This is just a simple one about 3 things I learned today, 2 things I want to learn more about, things I'm confused about. So kind of mess around in there a little bit and see which ones might be more applicable to what you're looking for.
Okay. So is there anything available for college level, or is just K through 12?
It's very limited. So it's very limited. But I would just want to encourage you guys, these templates are just a template. They're just something that you can tear apart, put together. It's already started for you.
So once you create your own, does that stay like in the public domain after that?
I don't. You could submit your Hyperdocs into these different public domains templates that are out there. I personally don't.
Right,
because I don't have time.
Like, you know, if you create one, you don't want like the next semester students to be like to be accessible to them, right? So
exactly. So like when I made that copy and you saw where I changed the folder and I moved it back to my own drive. So that copy is now sitting in my drive and it's not sitting in that template drive. Okay. All right. K to 12, yeah, using Hyperdocs all the time. Now, yep, my son in his science class all the time, Hyperdocs. So, all right, so I'm gonna post here these different websites for the templates. And what I want you guys to do is just take some time, pick one out, just kind of mess around with it and let's just kind of explore them a little bit. And I'm also gonna do the share screen also that people can share their screens too if they want to, if they have questions or, let me see here. Oh, participants, good. And I would say start simple. Pick like one concept that you want to try, one assignment or one lesson, an easy one. This is weird, Holly and Pete. I was like, if we were in the computer lab, I could walk around and help. This is kind of.
But here, since it's a casual, guys, you know, if you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask.
Please do, because I can't see what you guys are doing. So.
I have a question. Have you ever put images in your documents?
Yes, I do. I usually use just stuff from Creative Commons or like Unsplash or those kinds of things. But yeah, I don't use textbooks images in there just because of copyright issues. I don't want to cross any of that. So I just typically use like the one with the heat and the cold, talking about modalities. I just put a picture of fire in there and electricity, you know, just using it off of Creative Commons.
Mm-hmm.
Becky, just want to make sure maybe you covered this already. I remember you said on the Canvas page, you put the link, says link to a Hyperdoc. Can you embed it directly there?
Yeah, I can embed you can't, no. Like embed the Hyperdoc into the link?
Because
not that I know of.
The link connect to your Google Drive, Pete, I think in Canvas.
I've never tried that.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you have the page right there, because I love this concept. You know, the first module or the first week of lesson may take time, but then you can just duplicate and add new content for the rest of the week. So
Right.
it's like a Canvas page.
Oh, and just keep doing each week and just build upon it, and it'd be one
Right.
big. I've had students work in groups too, like we did an orthopedic unit and we did different hand injuries like skier's thumb and mallet finger and stuff like that. And I had them work in separate groups and they all did their thing on their diagnosis. And then I put it together as one big document for them as a study guide also for their tests and such. And I can show you how I have it kind of in my class. I just need to get to the right class.
Holly.
Yes.
There is a way. It says that if you go to save it, or I mean, you go to publish, publish to the web, and it'll give you embed code.
Oh, nice. That's when I love it. Yeah, I'm going to try those because that will really.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, seamless. I also like it, you know, it's so straightforward. Like when you add, say, the muddiest point of the session, it is so nice. You know, you don't need to go to extra form or another survey. Say right there for them, and yeah, it's just seamless.
And that was one thing that my students liked. I did learn the hard way in the beginning because I tried to do a whole bunch in there, like, because I was learning about Flipgrid and all these things. So I had like do Flipgrid first, now do an ed puzzle, and they said it was too much. So that was one thing I was like, okay, I'm limiting it to one external or maybe one every other week kind of thing. And I think part of it too was just they were getting used to the different technologies that were out there. Now, if I throw up a Flipgrid, they're like, oh, perfect. We know how to do that. So yeah, I'll just show you guys also here. Let me just share this. This is how I put it in Canvas for the students to see. So like, this was that one with the degenerative diseases. So this is a page in Canvas in their modules. So actually, let me back it up so you guys can see that too, how which one did I open up? So like week 5, here's your module. This is where they submit their Hyperdoc. And this was another assignment. Oh, can you see that?
I see it, yep.
Okay. And then what I do is that in this part here, there's their description, their lesson objectives. Here's their schedule of what we're doing for that class, their readings, the link to their PowerPoint. I always put some optional learning activities because I have some students that really like to go down some rabbit holes, which is awesome. I want them to go out and find more information. And then down here here's your 5.1 Hyperdoc. So they can just click on that, but now it sounds like maybe I can embed it. And they go straight to here, and then they make their copy.
Yep, that's nice.
So.
What are the things you typically have in a Hyperdocs? Like, I mean, I know you went through that, but I kind of just want you to go over. So basically, you would ask them to watch your video, and then maybe answer questions on that, like short answer questions, or maybe I got the muddiest point thing, and then maybe terminology that they want to remember. What else?
Sometimes I'll do certain things like, oh gosh, I had them do an activity called a flippity, which I know is kind of crazy, but where they had to, with different upper motor neuron diseases and lower motor neuron diseases, they had to put the different things in there, and they took a screenshot and put that in there. But a lot of it is, I'll do case studies in there. For one of the Hyperdocs, I had them watch a video of an assessment, and they went along with their assessment score forms, and they would have to put in what their scores were, different things like that. So it really, you can use it for a whole bunch of things. You can stick, if you have a TED Talk you want them to watch in there. Actually, this week they have it's kind of like a TED Talk, but then I have a whole bunch of questions in there. It's about a woman that was a survivor from the Boston Marathon bombing. And she talks about life before her amputations and after her amputations. And so then I have them talk about, you know, what are the changes in her routines? What are the changes in her roles? And so just really trying to apply some of that information to what we're learning in class.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, like I saw in your Canvas, like you have the Hyperdocs and then you have the other activity too. Does that, like, how much time is that? I mean, I'm just kind of curious that, you know, I also tend to be on the side of, oh, I get super excited. Okay, I can incorporate this and I can incorporate that, and, you know, it'll be good for student learning. And, you know, but at the same time, I should be cautious on if I'm not going overboard with, you know, activities. So I'm just trying to be cautious on how much is.
Exactly. No, I get that.
I always struggle with that because I mean, I spend hours researching. Oh, I like that one. I can put in that one, and
right. What you were seeing in this was the Hyperdocs. Typically, they get 5 days to complete them. So, because I want 2 days before our next class, so I can give them feedback and pull all those muddy points and prepare for what I need for them. The one you guys saw was because my 2 classes, we talk about the diagnoses in one, and then we talk about the interventions in the other one. So that one it was going to be a quick turnaround, and that's why it was all highlighted, like, please see that. The other thing you saw was a homework assignment that was more of a project that they've been working on. So it was kind of like, hey, don't forget to do your discussion on this. It's due in 2 weeks, kind of thing. So that's what you were seeing below.
Mm-hmm. But then you also mentioned that you work this as a group collaborative thing. Mm-hmm. So how do they work on that?
So for that one, if it's groups, I tend to make group Hyperdocs for them. So like with the PTA one, we have we assigned them to that, like, hey, this is your group name, so you're going to click on that one and use that one. And then you just have them again PDF it, and then they can submit it. They can submit it as a group through Canvas. There's an option for that to set up the groups if you want to do it that way. So only one person needs to submit for everybody. But I tend to, with the groups, preset those up for them. But if they're doing them individually, I don't. I just, here you go.
Okay. I mean, I'm just kind of, does that create more confusion for the instructor if somebody is sending as a group and some are just sending individually? Would that?
Yeah, I got to switch over to my
headset. My kids just walked in, so so they're making lots of noise in the kitchen. So with the group setup, that's a Canvas feature. Let's see here. See if I can pull up. I just don't have one that's a clear one that doesn't have student names on it. I don't know.
I think that's okay. I mean,
yeah, it's an assignment thing. It's how you set up the groups in Canvas.
Okay.
Because you can take your people in Canvas and you can group them together in groups, and then only one person has to submit at a time. Right. But yeah.
So I'm just looking at the templates and I'm like, okay, if I don't want to use the pre-existing template, because I mean, if they are too basic.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, how much time does it take to just create a template for like a new template? I mean, what all do you have to consider? Just putting in the text boxes, maybe attaching a video link, and
yeah. And Ritu, what I did with the first one that I ever made when I did it for my class, I took one of those templates and I really honestly took almost all the words out of it and all the pictures, and I just added my own pictures. I liked how the squares were and how it was laid out, and that's where I started with.
And there's no copyright issue in that?
No, nope. These are all open.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, any other questions, you guys? Or has anybody tried anything out yet to kind of mess around with it?
Yeah, if I can share my screen.
Sure. You should be able to, I think.
Yeah, I'm just
okay.
Gonna
yep, go for it.
This is what it looks like if you embed the document. It looks terrible.
Oh, that's a bummer. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe more work has to be done.
Okay. Thanks for trying that though. I
Mhm.
I
appreciate
had
it.
the same experience as Pete.
Oh,
After you embed, we need to maybe later on tinker the coding because it's the iframe it becomes very narrow and suddenly also you seems you could not edit it anymore.
oh,
I don't know. I haven't
Interesting.
because right now it's a very narrow, yeah. But
Yeah.
actually even the link will work because you still have other style sheet as our template kind of look like that. So either way, we just want to try different options, but
Yeah.
the link will work just fine.
Good. Good. What other questions do you guys have, or do you have like an idea, or like, hey, I want thinking about trying this for a certain topic or lesson that maybe we could all kind of collaborate on or think about some ideas.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I really like it.
Yeah, I support that. I'm totally like really bought into it, but I mean, I'm just kind of cautious from the time perspective that, you know,
So
like,
that's Ritu, yeah, back to your question. That's why, there's a lot of those templates. They may not be your discipline, or sometimes you may say those graphics, and those may not fit, but it's much easier to
you-
edit those existing ones.
right.
So, and also if you have any questions, Pete and I will, this is in Google, so we'll be here to help. And of course, you can email Becky. I think she's
Mhm.
also probably willing. She knows more than we do right now.
Sure.
So, yeah, email us.
One question I had was like, I have multiple topics in my course, and we move like really fast from one week to the other. So one week will be like, one chunk of information, not necessarily, I mean, I'm sure there'll be some overlap in information. However, the next week would be absolutely like, one week we are talking about, let's say, water pollution, and next week we're transitioning to air pollution kind of stuff. So, I mean, I do understand the point of the muddiest point kind of a thing, but then, it doesn't really roll over in that sense, accepting a few common parameters or, aspects, so to say. So in that sense, every module is like, one big chunk of piece of information in that sense. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, I'm tempted to do Hyperdocs for each module, which I do like on a weekly basis. But I'm just a little bit cautious here because I mean, like typically in my week, I would put multiple activities, and I'm just kind of thinking if I kind of also include Hyperdocs, will that be like a too much thing for them? But I'll play around to see.
Yeah. And it does take time. I will be very honest. The first couple I made took a long time because I wasn't familiar with it. Now that I have kind of a flow to it, I just copy like this week's and I just change the title and I start just changing the stuff in it and make it for the following week. So it has gotten a little bit easier. And Ritu, you might also think about maybe using the Hyperdoc as the kind of the one step and put your activities into it instead of
That's not
adding it as additional.
right. Not to then only use Hyperdocs for that. That's
Mhm.
probably the best. I feel if you're doing multiple activities, put them all in here
Yeah.
and not split up. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And do reach out. You guys, if you have any questions or like, hey, I'm trying to make this happen, let me know. I'd be able to be willing to do that. Or we could always do a Zoom and you can throw it up there and I'll make you drive through it and we can make it happen that way too. So any other questions or
I don't have question. I have a few announcements. May I just insert it? Well, if you have questions, just feel free to ask. First of all, thank you, Becky, for taking this time. It's a really cool tool. I'm sure I will play it more and and ask you questions. I'm also thinking, maybe at MCC we can have a shared place. You know, if you created some template, back to Ritu's concern, you know, if we have our own repertoire, this is for college level, you know, if you build one, say, okay, that is more usable or applicable to my area, so I can just borrow your template and go from there. So we can maybe try that. The other thing is everyone, thank you, Becky, and thank you everyone for attending this session. So this is the third time we do this faculty for faculty conversations. So you will get the clock hour, your full-time adjunct will get the honorarium. You don't need to do anything. I have noted down everyone every time I keep looking at the participants. So, you know, so I will write down all, I've noted down everyone's name. If you recall on Monday, I sent out the regular Monday, the e-newsletter. This week there were 2 Wiley webinars, actually are quite nice. I'm not sure whether you got a chance to attend. One is today at noon to 1. I did, it was quite nice. Talk about inclusive learning, create an inclusive learning environment for student success. So I was very skeptical at the beginning, you know, everything by the publisher, you were wondering what if they are trying to sell, you know, software or something. But this one is quite nice. On Friday, this coming Friday, this one's called Manage Zoom Fatigue. So, you know, if you got time, so please do. Unlike this session, as I said, I noted down everyone's participation. For Friday session, or if you already attended today's session, email me to say I attended this session. So you will get the same clock hour honorarium as usual, but I need you to let me know because, you know, I couldn't see their attendance, see their participation list. So the reason I'm promoting that is after I talked with Robin, because these presenters for today and also Friday are faculty. So they are literally talking about their classroom experience and some strategies and tips about those, the Wiley events. To promote learner engagement, resources and best practices can be used in synchronous Zoom sessions. So like just like our synchronous online or your flex classroom. So I'm sure we all have that experience of Zoom, but this is my 5th meeting today. So, you know, sometimes we see our students may experience the same thing if they are having several lessons. But I would just throw that out if you have a chance. Any questions for Becky?
Holly, there was a question in the chat. Was there a recording available for the Wiley?
Yes, they said they will send out. I have not get that yet, but they also shared lots of resources, including the PowerPoint and some other in Google Doc format. I will post that onto the CTL site. Yep, thank you.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Seriously, if you have any questions or can I run this past you or how do I get this put in here, just let me know. I'm more than willing to help out. So, all right. All right. Thank you.